Hello, and welcome to the Parker's Couch. My brothers and I'm Cameron Parker, here, joined by the oldest. Who are you?
I'm Carl. What's up, baby? The most handsome, the most debonair. I'm right here.
What about the other one?
CP, Carlin Parker in the house. What's up, fellas?
All right.
Thank you, Carlin. You didn't pull the Jan Brady crap.
Nope. I am not a middle child today. I'm an angry child today.
An angry child today. All right. Okay. Normally we do our podcast bi-weekly for those who have been following. Thank you so much. For a new audience out there who may not know, make sure you check out the podcast on all streaming platforms, and you could catch some replays here on YouTube. But we decided to come on today in between our bi-weekly podcast to really talk about this Shedeur Sanders business, because this couldn't wait another 2 weeks before we jumped on this topic. So as you come in, if you have thoughts and comments, don't feel free to share them in the chat, and I'll share those and we'll discuss that as well. But to get things started off, brothers, let's talk. It's just different angles. I guess I want to approach this and talk from it, and we can all chime in with what angles we want to approach this. But Shedeur ended up falling to the 5th round. Someone thought to be, at worst, a late first rounder goes to the 5th round of the draft. And the question now is why? Why did this happen? Now, there have been a lot of different thoughts and commentary out there on him from, all the criticisms of him being entitled and disinterested and just saying some really cruel things. Some of the quotes out there have just been absolutely cruel towards this young man and just blasting him. And we could surely share some of those. But what the heck happened? Guys, I just want to leave it open-ended before we dive into some of the quotes and some of the things said. What happened here?
Go ahead, Carlin.
Did you mute yourself?
I did. Okay. What happened here was that a bunch of babies are running organizations, it seems like. I can see why they're losing organizations in the NFL, and they stay losing organizations with some of the comments they're making. The one that stands out to me the most is how they said Shedeur Sanders made them feel little. You're in a leadership role in an organization, and you let a recent college graduate come in and make you feel small. That says a lot about you as a leader. I can see why you have a losing program. To me, you want somebody to come in that's going to overturn the apple cart if you're a losing program, because what you're doing right now isn't working. Your leadership style is not a winning leadership style. And somebody comes in and calls you on your bullshit, you act the way you act and say, I got to teach him a lesson. And you draft all these quarterbacks over him that are not anywhere in his league in terms of his accuracy, his leadership ability. They went to Colorado. Colorado, I think, won one game before they got there. Maybe they won any games, something like that, or maybe one in like 2 years. They won, 8 games since last year?
9.
9 games? But he doesn't have any leadership qualities. Yeah, that's okay. Show me a quarterback in this draft that has taken the path of Shedeur. Start off at an HBCU. Who else started at offense at HBCU as a quarterback and made it to the NFL? made it to the big time leagues, won Player of the Year in the Big 12, but he doesn't have any leadership qualities. Man, they can miss me with that. This was clear and blatant, and I think what really happened was the players in the league. I saw a lot of tweets from players talking about how ridiculous this was, especially Patrick Mahomes came out and said this was crazy about his drop, and I think the NFL listened to that and it's like, okay, we're gonna get some bad press, so we gotta find a home. Washington Cattell was like, we gotta find a home for this guy. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense. The stuff that's coming out, the stories, and the Deion angle is even weirder about how the teams are afraid of Deion, and Deion's going to overstep his boundaries. Deion's going to come and take their job. So they're operating in fear and feeling small from leadership. I don't get it.
I like the Deion aspect as well, because where I like what you said there, Colin, but also didn't Archie Manning say Eli was not going to play for some teams?
Live, the live broadcast.
I mean, didn't he kind of facilitate where he wanted Eli to be drafted and where he wanted him to go and play for, and who he wanted him to play for? I mean, it's so for Prime or Coach Deion Sanders to, being as knowledgeable as he is, he's a football savant, a great athlete in his own right, but really knows the game, understands the game, and has played in the league, so he understands the politics of the league as well. So for a man that knows that, of course he would want his son to fall into the right spot. Any father would. So just like Archie Manning pulled his card, why couldn't Deion pull his card? So and people are up in arms about Deion doing that. But the sad thing is this young man Shedeur was over 70%, had over 70% completion rate, over 1,800 passes. Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Hurt, none of them eclipsed that mark. So it's not like this young man isn't talented or doesn't deserve to be, or didn't deserve to be drafted in the first round or at least the second round. I think it's blasphemous for these talking heads to say so much about Shedeur when you had a person like Baker Mayfield and a person like Johnny Manziel, who had all kind of character flaws, be drafted number 1 overall and in the first round. I think Manziel was like the 22nd pick in the first round or something like that, somewhere along in there. But Baker was number 1, right?
Yep, first pick.
He was first pick. And these guys had documented character issues. Documented. Cameron, you were saying something, but you were muted.
Sorry about that. I said, but people loved his brassness, though. They loved that about Baker.
Yeah.
Oh, white people have moxie. That's what they call it.
Yeah, he got moxie.
He got moxie.
Yes. He plays with fire.
Yes.
Exactly.
So and Shedeur, on the flip side, he's arrogant. He's flippant. He doesn't respect authority.
Yes.
That's the, so they want a young black male to come in subservient and not able to think.
Absolutely.
So, um, and that's my. I don't like that aspect. What do you have to say about it, Cameron? I'm
That,
interested in your perspective.
all right. So y'all hit on a range of different things and places I want to dive in. Picking up off of the last thing you just said about they don't want a young black man to think. One of the with he apparently gave the worst interview ever that people have heard, the worst former interview I've heard in my life, according to some unnamed sources that won't even
One is named Brian Dayball.
what? Well,
Brian
Brian
Day,
Dayball,
yeah,
Brian Dayball was talking about how he didn't know how he messed up at the whiteboard and da 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 da. Didn't like the way he responded when he called him out, all this stuff, whatever. Yes, but in that same vein, with not being able to think, because they have the critique like, oh, he's coming in dictating, oh, he wants things done this way, certain way. I was trying to think, when was that a bad thing to kind of know to speak up like in your strengths and what you're good at and how you might want certain things, what offensive style you might like. I would think those are quarterback quite things to talk about at first. So that kind of had me thinking a little way. But to go back to the Dion, I want to go to the Dion angle first. Because you sent that clip this morning, Carl, about Colin Cowherd going off and how nobody's talking about Dion and everybody's getting on the daddy. Oh, the daddy done messed this up and da 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 da. The bit back NFL is scared of a father somehow dictating what they're gonna do. That's just bizarre to me anyway. It's just such a cop out. But the whole Dion factor, they keep going back to this Tamron Hall interview where he was talking about where he just simply said what you said. There are a couple of organizations I would not allow my son to play for. I know the ins and outs. I don't need to talk about it out loud. Do you think Dion knows what's going on with some of these organizations?
of course.
And it's the same
Hello?
as that thing,
Exactly.
the same as that thing as you brought up with Archie Manning. And it's kind of documented, or the thought is that Ryan Leaf actually informed the family of some things going on in the organization at the time, and not to have Elon there and Eli there. And Eli told them, even if you don't want to go with the Archie Manning angle that he dictated, Eli himself told the organization, I would not play a snap for you. I would not throw a pass. If you draft me, I am not playing.
I'm not playing. I think before you move on, Cameron, another person situation we're forgetting about, I think is even more aligned than Archie and Eli. Jack Elway, John Elway's dad,
Yeah, John Elway.
he was a coach. He was a coach as well,
Mm-hmm.
and he said John Elway will not play for you. John Elway
Yep,
threatened to go to the Yankees. He said, "You
that's
draft me, I'm
correct.
going to the Yankees." So this is not the first time they've dealt with this.
Yeah, it's just so weird, and and the politics of it. I mean, somebody tell me something that's different other than the racial makeup in these situations. And
Well,
everybody's like, "Oh, don't talk about. Oh, y'all want to talk about race, and you want to do this, but tell me something that's different."
well, the racial aspect is it's huge because think of how many African Americans that play in the NFL. So if you know a black father that's a quarterback, um, if he starts that trend of I'm dictating where my child is going to play, what about black receivers? What about black running backs? What about black O linemen, black defensive linemen, black linebackers? You know,
Okay.
so uh, I think the league is basically making a preemptive strike. Like, hey, we're not going to let these young black men think they can run these organizations or they have a voice. See, they want to be different than the NBA. See,
Yes.
in the NBA, players do have a voice. The
Yep.
NFL is only the brand, the shield.
Absolutely.
and you work.
Oh, lost you a little bit on that last one, but I
And
want to
honestly,
go.
I think the NFL is trying to get ahead of this NIL situation because the
It,
kids
it,
are not coming in as professional athletes now. They're not the amateur athletes that they were before. These kids are coming in making money and having power of their own. So now this is a different breed of kid they're dealing with. And
Yeah.
I don't think the NFL is ready to accept that. They still want to operate as business as usual, but you're going to have to move with the times. These kids are going to come in with moxie, with cachet, with money, with agents, and with the backing and following. So you're going to have to understand that this is you're going to have to become and somewhat part of the NBA culture and adopt these kids as not just part of the shield, like my brother was saying. These kids are going to come in as individuals.
I want to go to
but
a comment real quick, if we could. You know the deal. Thank you for joining us here at the Parker's Couch. You know the deal chimed in and said he clearly should have been drafted higher. Teams don't want to deal with the Sanders traveling circus. Talent ain't worth the drama. So this is the because it leads to the other critique I've been hearing a lot and stuff it going into, and that part of like dealing with Dion and the drama. Like I'm just trying to get under my head like what people like the expectations of what they think would happen to a team that Dion's son goes to. I mean, Dion is coaching a football team. Am I correct?
he
Last time
During
I
is.
the
checked, he
college season,
was.
like he's gonna be
He's going
kind
to be
of
worried about that.
he's gonna be kind of occupied and busy. And these things happen like along the same like he has a lot to worry about on his plate. I don't think he's gonna be like chasing around his son wherever he goes.
So I think there's a social media aspect that kind of hurts on these kids too. Because I'm gonna tell you, back in the day, there were people that wielded that same respect that these kids are getting right now. People were getting paid back in the day too. Let's not get it
Yeah, they
Absolutely.
twisted.
were. Absolutely.
They were getting paid big money back in the day, off the books, and they had backing off the books. Um, and I'll say, when I was playing ball, I'll just go ahead and get this story. Like when I played with Allen Iverson in the summer league, Allen Iverson came in every gym with 20 people. 20 people that was following him. Every gym he went into, like 20 hood cats that come in with him, like his entourage. And he had a backing, and he also had other people, other individuals that had some cachet that was backing him too. So it's not like people didn't have uh, some backing, some following, and and some media guys that were behind them, and some guys with some deep pockets that were behind them.
Oh,
It was
absolutely.
several NFL cats. Chester McLaughlin, he was from this area, and he had tons of following behind him. He had a following behind him. Like it wasn't done back in the day, but it's social media does have something to do with it. And these kids have their platforms on social media where they can, you know, um, do what they do with social media and put their brand out there. But it's not a circus. It's business.
That's just part of it.
It's
Like
part of the nature of the game now. It's part of business right now, and all that does is bring revenue back to your shield,
yeah.
back to your brand. Just flip that, as a narrative for you. You're gonna still make money, but it don't mean that the kid can't make the money too.
And I'm just confused that whenever Shedeur has ever been labeled as having bad character or like just being a bad teammate, whereas all these people out here coming out talking about him. I I mean the biggest thing is just being cocky, just a little bit brass, but I mean
And talking like he's talking shit to people from other teams. That's what happened. People shit talk. If we beat you and I meet you at midfield and you was talking shit the week before or all summer long, I'm gonna wolf at you too. But like
But
my
what
brother
about the
said,
other cats that was
everything's on
wolfing
camera
at
now.
him?
Everything's on social media. Everybody has to cover every second of people's lives, which is ridiculous.
But it, see, the thing that ticks me off about some of that is the cats that be woofing at them, then they throw the rock and hide their hand.
Exactly.
absolutely. Yes. It's not a one-sided thing
No.
at all. But Carl, you brought up too the stats on the field. It's like, when do we stop paying
Oh,
attention to what he produced? Like, look at his college career. I've heard like people talking about like not going to the combine or not doing this or that, not participating. But it's the same thing everybody does. Like all the top tier players host their own pro days and
Especially quarterbacks.
yeah, especially quarterbacks that do this stuff. I don't know. It just seems like it's all this extra when it's coming to Shedeur, as it now everything all of a sudden being a bad thing or being a bad sign.
well, why all of a sudden is he not talented? So
I mean, I don't get it.
that narrative I've been hearing here lately, I don't understand. So the average time a guy is in the pocket in the NFL is what, 3 to 4 seconds?
Yeah.
His average in college was 2 seconds.
He was getting rid of that thing quick.
That release was quick. And
So
he was making game-winning big plays, like Hail Marys for touchdowns with the game on the line. Just ridiculous plays.
I mean, this kid was under duress the whole time in Colorado.
Yes.
And he really didn't have a good old line when he was at Jackson.
Yeah. He's taking a lot of hits. He's definitely tough.
And the other thing with like all of a sudden it's bad to have a pro father. I'd like to have a father who was a pro athlete. Like all of a sudden, like with the Mannings, that was like royalty. That's what made them great, right? Yeah. Everybody else, all of a sudden, now to have an evolved father who was an awesome pro athlete, an all-star, one of the best to do it, is now a negative thing.
It used to be that, hey, you came from good stock. That's good lineage. You came from a pro family. Now he's
a nepo baby.
Yeah, now
no, Peyton, they weren't nepo babies. They were
QB. He's a QB dad.
Right. He's a father of a coach, a quarterback coach. How many times have we heard that? Yeah. Oh, he's the son of a He's the son of a coach. You never hear that with Shedeur.
You never hear that.
Back in the day, that was like, oh, he's the son of a coach. He's a great catch.
Absolutely.
That means he's coachable. Now they're saying the narrative is he's not coachable.
Yeah, I'm just so confused with that. He's not coachable. He's a bad teammate. Somebody thought he takes too many sacks. Did you see the offensive line? Like, I'm just...
The line was porous.
It's a lot. Now, Shedeur is nowhere near the perfect player. And everybody, like, and truth be told, like, I think everything... we need to start giving young players more time to develop and everything and become pro. That's a whole different conversation than putting all this stuff on them. But with that said, with who was in this draft class, don't tell me that 5 quarterbacks should have come before him.
No, that was all collusion, man. It ain't. You can't tell me anything other than that. These owners, they're all friends. They all in the same club. They got together and said, "This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna teach everybody a lesson, not brand." And that was, and everybody I'm talking about is African American athletes. And until African American athletes start understanding what this system is and really start, hey, you got to treat this thing really like a business, and you really got the African Americans really have to start learning to stick together a lot more in this sport.
Mm-hmm.
Not only here, but that they did it in basketball, and you see what that has done in basketball.
Oh yeah, definitely has changed that around. I can't remember who it was talking. I was trying to remember on one of the shows, and he was talking to a lot of those respects, and he was saying like, you just would not believe the conversations that the owners have whenever they're together. And it's like people want to like think that it's nothing more than what you're saying, like collusion or just putting somebody in their place or taking control. People want to think that's not the case, but he was like, you would just be amazed at the way that they talk about players, that they talk about fans, that they just talk about everybody.
Yeah.
Behind these closed doors.
They're human.
Exactly.
And they're greedy, somewhat nasty humans. They were born in an era, because a lot of them were born in that same era, in an era that did not respect African Americans.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess like with the Deion coming towards the end here, do you think like is there some kind of what would be the vendetta like against Deion if this is a shot kind of at him?
Well, Deion was a free thinker. And Deion danced to the beat of his own drum, even when he played back then. He played in the NFL, in the MLB.
Mm-hmm.
He was a lockdown corner that shut down the game at cornerback, returned kicks, played some offensive packages as well, and never got tired. Really never came off the field.
Yeah.
And I remember he also got a lot of criticism when he started coaching like youth football too. Like they've always criticized Deion because he's always done things his way. He didn't always toe the line. Like he didn't do things the way it's always been done. So
exactly,
like you say, he's a free thinker. He thinks outside the box. Like he builds relationships with people. Like he actually builds relationships. I think people are jealous of that because these coaches nowadays they don't do that, and these people in organizations they don't do that. You're just a commodity. You're a number. You're not a person to them, and he treats it very differently.
And there's one other aspect to it that, some people in the NFL, they do say it's supposed to be God, family, and football, like cliche-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But these are overtly Christian individuals. When you talk about the family, so they do have their belief system in Christianity, and they profess it wholly, and that's another aspect that the NFL don't want no part of. Tim Tebow can speak to that, even though he wasn't as gifted at quarterback, but he did. He was a professing Christian, and they professed him right on up out of the NFL.
Not professed him.
Now he could Uh, honestly, Tebow wasn't a great quarterback, but he could have helped the team in other positions. I think he could have been if he wanted to, but I don't think, as far as African Americans, they don't want you to be talking too much about God like that. And the young kid from Houston,
CJ.
he's a professing Christian,
He talks about it.
but they tamed him down a little bit.
That's interesting. I didn't think about that. It's one to explore.
That's something we'll just keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
These organizations, man, they're nefarious characters in that deal, man. There's some evil guys up in those organizations, and there's some things that they do not want come in there, because if people come there with some morality and free thinking and whatnot, it'll change the culture and it'll change the game. They want these black men to not think, do whatever they want them to do, and to be animals. I'd rather you be a thug.
With that, yeah.
I just saw an alert. Y'all heard about the prank phone call, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The son of the Falcons defensive coordinator was the guy behind it.
So that was true. I know that was what was being rumored.
Interesting.
So that's what was
Dion, a Falcon.
That's interesting. Yeah, that was the rumor.
Parallels, right? That's pretty interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's just wild to me, this whole thing. And I guess my last thought, when we get our last thoughts, what we have on this, and it kind of goes with what I guess. And when I think about it, I'm trying to combine what you were just saying there, Carl. What's going on? The other comment I wanted to say that was just bothering me, that I was just hearing from people, and then I was having conversations with different people about this, and everybody just has this thing like, oh, he had to be humbled. I want, like, he needs more humility.
What's your name, boy?
That's all I kept hearing whenever I hear
Pretty
that.
much.
And I'm like, what does that mean? He has to be humbled? And like, what about him is not humble? I'm trying to get people's definition of humility. But as the kid, like, being cocky doesn't like transfer to not being humble automatically, like, to me. Like, it's different ways to, like, that's in a sport and doing things like showing, like they say, like moxie and all these things. Yeah, I want my athletes to be cocky. Like, they make kind of the best athletes, but everything about him as a person, I have not seen him not be humble.
It's about jealousy, because he's flashing Rolexes on the field and stunting on them. He's stunting in Rolexes and gold chains. They can't take it.
I mean,
his dad did the same thing.
Exactly.
His dad did the same thing.
He's being his father.
Best believe, if I was rich, I guess people gonna be calling me cocky.
Okay. They mad because they can't do
it. But that's personality. That's who he is. Now, his brother may not have that same personality.
Right.
But that's who Shedeur is. His father was that way as well.
Which I saw Shiloh got. Was it
Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for him.
I don't know. Y'all have any final thoughts?
I'm just hoping that Shedeur gets a real opportunity. He's in purgatory in Cleveland with 700 quarterbacks.
There's a lot of them.
So hopefully he gets a real opportunity to showcase his ability.
I agree. I'll piggyback off of that, Carlin. That um, he is a tough man, but all I'll say is just let the young man grow into what he's going to become. You know, we have he has been overanalyzed and broken down and picked apart, and he's not a finished product. You know, let him grow and mature, and let's see what he becomes. You know, 7, 8 years down the road. Um, you know, Lamar Jackson is a heck of a talent right now, but he had to go through a bunch
Absolutely
to get to where he is, and he still hasn't won the chip yet. He's still got more to grow. So, you know, give the guy a break. Let him do what he does, and we'll see where he is 7, 8 years from now.
Absolutely. I mean, talk about humility and all this stuff. Don't worry. The NFL will take care of that on its own on the field.
Yep.
Okay, between the lines, exactly.
So,
Yep.
yeah, everyone is going to have to go through their growing pains. So, when he's going through his, I just hope people just don't kill the kid and be like, oh, look and see it. Da, da. Yeah.
Yeah. Extend them some grace.
Definitely.
But you know who got a raw deal out of the whole thing is Cam Ward. Shout out to Cam Ward, going from no stars to the #1 draft pick in the NFL. Kudos to Cam Ward.
Amazing.
He's a lost story out there.
Yeah, everybody's talking about how weak the quarterback draft was, but the guy still put in work.
Absolutely.
You know, you still got to give him kudos for that. So, amen, brother.
All right. Well, stay tuned to the Parker's Couch podcast. Make sure you stream us on all major platforms. And we have many more good topics to talk about for you. You know, when we have breaking topics like this in between our podcasts, we'll probably jump on here for a quick live to come and share our thoughts, just like we did today.
Yeah, this is good. I enjoyed that. Thanks for doing this, guys. You know,
thank you, brothers. I appreciate you allowing me to take a part in your Sunday today.
Yeah.
All right. You know I love y'all. It's all about the brother love.
Love y'all too.
Peace out.
Peace out.